Welcome everyone to this new episode of Beyond the Black Tag. Here with me, I've got my beloved brother Mao, co-host of the show and the conversationalist himself, the intellect. And we've got a special guest today. Every guest is going to be special from now on. Um, but Lindo is our guest for today. Lindo Madlala. Lindo Guse, Arnold Bukele Madlala, the whole ID.
Wow.
You're supposed to do that, man. You weren't supposed to do that. You infringed on my right.
They will love you more for that, my friend. But my love for this guy is insane. I'm going to speak a little bit about you before you introduce yourself. So Lindo Goise served a mission. He's a return missionary, like many of our other guests. And being a return missionary means he served a mission. And the mission that he served was the greatest mission in the world, South Africa Johannesburg mission. Him serving that mission meant that I got to see him I got to see him on mission. Now we got to meet before mission, and he matriculated before me. Yeah, right? You matriculated in 2019 or 2018? 2019. 18, yeah. So he matriculated before me, and I always looked at this guy like this guy who's older than me, and he's just so wise and so brilliant and things like that. But he's been my age the whole time. But every time I saw him within the stake, we stake activities and things, we would just, get along, and he would just give me some, knowledge, some wisdom. And I'd go back and I'm like, yo, man, that guy's awesome. Then he disappeared. I'm like, where did this guy go? And lockdown happened. I went into intermission 2020, and boom, this guy is here. I'm like, so this is where you ran off to, and just from then, we got along once again, and he was an officer at the time while I'm as green as can be. And I was struggling at that time. I was having the hardest time getting used to the company. I loved my trainer. My trainer, of course, was the absolute best, but I was just struggling with the company, and how to deal with them. I'm so used to working with my family and my friends at home, but this is completely new. And, just trying to figure out, how am I going to do this? And Lindo Goshe sits me down and says, I carried this through my whole mission. He says, every time you get into a situation where there's some kind of conflict or some kind of disagreement, figure out what could you have done better. So talk to me, Jeremy, what could you have done better to make the situation better? Then after, look at your companion or whoever and say, look at how that person could have done better. When you introspect first and look at yourself first, you get to be humbled and saying, okay, well, there's these kinds of things I could have done. And whatever this person then says, you can take it as criticism and work on yourself further than that. After that, I think I was done fighting with people. I was just working on that every single time I came with a new companion, every single time. So this is a wise guy as well, somebody whom I looked up to on mission and helped me throughout, all the way until the end of his mission, and got to live a legacy after that when he left, and it was just absolutely fantastic. So, Lindo, who are you, my friend? When did you serve? Why do we love you so much? And tell us about your current situation. You know what I'm talking about with regards to how you're living, whom you're living with, and so on and so forth.
Oh, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Jeremy. That was wonderful. Seriously, that was really good. It feels like you practiced that, but
right.
It's really good. At the moment, I'm cohabiting. Just joking. All right. So yeah, my name is Lindo Madlala. You already saw my names. But yeah, my name is Lindo Madlala. I'm from KwaMashu. I always say KwaMashu, but I'm from the neighborhood just next door to it, Newlands East. Yeah, I'm 22 this year. And I'm currently a student at NMU, Nelson Mandela University. I'm studying electrical engineering, so I'm doing my bachelor or my degree in electrical engineering. I'm married as well. Got married in January. So it's been like almost 7 months now since I've been married to my wife. In terms of, I guess, maybe I'll give a bit of my story. I come from a family of four, my mom and dad and my older sister. I'm the youngest in the family. Um, my family wasn't really active in the church. So for me, I also didn't really know about the church up until I was like 8. And I only found out then my father was actually a member and my mom as well, because back then it was a big deal if the man, if the wife was getting married and they were getting married, usually the woman would take the church of the man, So she was baptized. I didn't know this. And so I ended up getting baptized when I was 8 because the missionaries came at the right time, let's say, but I, had no control over that. And yeah, then a few years later, a few years later, my mom passed away. So it was just my dad and my sister and I. And my dad had stopped working, so we were out of money for a long time, a few years. And so that was a tough time. I wasn't really at church, let's say. I didn't really go to church during that period of time. And I guess I never really had my own testimony. I loved primary, but I also didn't like primary because it was a difficult place, because you had to read scriptures, you had to prepare, you had to come to class and answer questions and stuff like that. So it felt like school. And I have a funny story about that, but it's for another day probably. So yeah, then a few years after that, as I said, I wasn't at church. I didn't really want anything to do with church because I was hurt. My mom passed away, and I was a mommy's boy. I really was. I would sleep with her, all the stuff. Anyways, not that important, but let's just say that I was a mommy's boy. And so her passing hurt me, and I felt like God wasn't there. But when I was 15, we had our first FSY at what you call this in Maritzburg. And so the year before that, I was like doing some stupid stuff with, young boys, stupid stuff. And I promised myself that, 2016, I'm going to start a new clean slate. And so that's what I did. I never missed church since 2016. At least for my, in my control, I've never missed church. And yeah, that's when life changed. FSY came, and so everything sort of just started going up like that. So yeah, I've been at church since then, and I decided that I needed to serve a mission in the very same year when I was 15. And so I prepared myself till I was able to go and serve. And yeah, you're right. I served in the best mission. It was in the hardest time, COVID. We didn't have a lot going on, but we made the most out of it. I learned a lot of things throughout that mission experience, and I think some of them I'm still learning. I'm still trying to recover from some of the disappointments I've had. But for the most part, I'd say that yeah, I tried my best, did my best to serve God, and yeah, the Lord has been amazing. Fast forward, I came back. I know, Maui, we spoke. You said you came back home and you already had a girl. I got a girl. I got
Secret's
a
kind
girl
of
the
close
week
to
after
touch you.
when I came back from mission. It wasn't my wife though. But yeah, that experience happened for some time, and then after that, I sort of was questioning that relationship. Let's say this is me telling you how my wife came into the picture, and so this was me questioning my relationship with that girl. And I went to the temple one of those days in that week, and I prayed. I was praying, but I was asking the Lord to just help me to know what I must do here. And I got a really clear impression. It was from one of the things that is said in the temple, I guess. But essentially, the phrase was so clear to me that I knew that this is what I had to do. And immediately a vision came up in my head, let's say. And all I could see was myself being married to my wife and not the girl that I was currently dating.
Mm.
And it was like, this is going to happen soon. And so I basically told that other girl that I want to get married, even though it wasn't to her. and
Oh.
she laughed at that. She said that you don't. She was working, she's getting good money, but she's like, well, how are we gonna do it? You're not even working. She just basically made excuses as to it not happening, and she also wanted to serve a mission. So I had to respect her on that. And so I just said, well, I don't think we're going to the same place. So we broke up, and then I pursued my wife, and I didn't have a job since I came back in December. This was now March, and literally a day after meeting with my wife for the first time, I got a job interview, and I worked. I worked at that place for a pretty long time in the last year,
Hmm.
and it helped me a lot financially speaking. Not gonna lie, it was a good place. And so yeah, man, it's been the I know that I'm here because the Lord put me here, and He put me here with my wife, and I don't doubt those things, even though it's tough sometimes. But yeah, me and my wife are both students. She's studying law. She's in the second year. So we are still hustling out here in humble beginnings, let's say.
I have questions for you, man.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sweet. First of all, I have multiple questions for you, and I'll get into your questions about your wife a lot because we know both of you guys, amazing people. The first thing I wanted to say is immediately one can feel up your spirit, even through a screen. And the question I had was surrounding your conversion. Maybe what solidified that you alluded a little bit to FSY and how FSY gave you an upward trajectory. But maybe also tell us a little bit more about how or what it is that strengthened your testimony to even say, I'm going to go on a mission. I'm going to serve well. And I'm going to come back and make the decisions that I've made. What was the turning point for you, aside from FSY, that really solidified your testimony in the gospel?
Okay, good question. So I just spoke about FSI. I don't know why I decided to speak about it, but it was important, but it wasn't I had already made up my mind by FSY when FSY came into the picture. So let me just add more context. So as I said, I wasn't attending church from at least for like 2-3 years. I was partly active, but not really. I would attend sometimes or not all the time. And I was just a young boy. I was drinking, I was smoking, but nothing serious, but just the stupid stuff. And I was doing that with my friends on my streets. And um, in that period of time, I don't know, maybe the Lord, I don't know. I think we all have these moments where we question ourselves and we question whether or not what we're doing is the right thing. I did have some basis on primary, so I know that it definitely came into play when I was a young teenager, because stuff like sleeping around was stuff that, even though I probably could have done at that young age, I was still afraid of, because I still knew some basics from primary. And so me asking myself the question of, okay, is this how my life is going to be? Because here I go to school, I do my best in my schoolwork. I know when I'm with my friends, we just do the same old things all the time. And for the longest time in that year, I think it was 2014, I was really asking myself, 2015, so I was like, is this really what I want? Is this really, really what I want? And so that for me was, that process took a long time, to the point where in December of that very same year, prior to going to FSY, I decided, not, I'm going to stop all of this. And I hadn't gone back to church then, like, I'm just gonna stop. And that was the worst December of my life, because my that's when Satan came full strong. My family kind of accepted that I was doing these things. I was like, 14, man. I was 14, but I was drinking like an old man. And um, that I remember that December, my brother came with me, came with like a 24 pack. I had a whole lot of stuff, and he's like, Lindo, this is for you, man. And I told him straight, like, I'm not drinking anymore, you know. And he said, what? He's like, yeah. I was like, just give me cool drinks, cool juice and stuff. And he respected my decision. He didn't laugh at me. He didn't say, "Are you crazy?" He just respected it, and I was able to get out of that space because I felt like I had some support for my decision. And yeah, that's kind of where it happened. And then my decision to come on mission, as I said, FSY played a huge role because it sort of kick-started me in the right direction. And I came home, and that was the year that I had to decide what my studies are going to be like, what my grade 10, what you call this, my grade 10 subjects are going to be. And so, yeah, I prayed to God. I remember I initially prayed. I said, Heavenly Father, I don't know what career path do you want me to take. I didn't know. I was like, what career path do you want me to take? And the idea came into my mind, and I felt that impression to study electrical engineering. But there was a condition. The condition was, you will get whatever you want, provided that you serve a mission. And this is me, 15 years old. I'm serious. I kid you not, guys. And it was just as clear as I'm telling you. And so I was like, okay, it's decided then. If I want God to bless me in my life, because I want to do this, I want to do this good, I want to do these good things, I know I have to become a good man, and that starts with being a missionary. And so for me, I treated mission. I know a lot of people treated it as this place where, when people ask you, why did you serve a mission, you say to them, no, it's because I want to share the gospel with others. I want to. That's the standard answer, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it was a bit deeper than that. It was, I want to follow God because He wants me to do some good in the world, and He's told me that this is where I need to start. And so that's why I'm here.
Yeah, you remind me of President Palmer. Remember when we had the mission, what do you call it? The mission tour, and it wasn't much. He was touring online because we had it over Zoom. But President Palmer had a mission tour with us, and he was asking some of the missionaries, why did you come on mission? What is your purpose? You, besides inviting others to come to Christ, what did you come on mission to do? And I, brave enough, went up to him. I said, President, I came on mission because I want to grow. I want to become, a man. I want to become this person that will be able to help people, this person who will be independent and such and such and such. I was naming these things. This is like 4 months into mission. He says to me and promises me that if you focus on following God, if you focus on teaching people, if you focus on serving, I promise you that those things will come. But don't focus on growing. Don't focus on becoming a man. Focus on the people. Focus on God. And that is what's going to lead you to all these secondary things. The primary focus is God. The primary focus is your fellowship with Jesus Christ, being a disciple of Christ. And I'm seeing how that, was just like, it eluded off of you. I think that's the wrong word to use, but it oozed off of you even on your mission. Like every time I saw you, it was just, we got to go. But you still had the time to work and talk with the missionaries who were around you. But when work had to happen, Azish, we're gone. We're going to do the work. So I want to say that process of, so whatever you did on mission, that mindset that you had, how did that transform or convert into life after mission? Was it an easy conversion? Was it an easy transfer, or adjusting period? Because yes, you came in and you dated, I think that's the one thing, probably the best thing for every returned missionary, is to come home and date, so that you can just get rid of that, that first little, just shake it off, and then say, okay, cool, now I can really go and see and figure things out, someone to tell your stories to. But how was that, adjustment period that time of really what I've done on mission coming home?
Good question. So for me, I think it was tough. Maybe I'd say terrible in a way. I feel like I haven't, I think at this point in time when we're having this interview, this is probably I'd say the highest I've been since my mission. And you might be like, what? That's crazy. But I feel like that because when I came back, I was so positive. I was so excited for the next day. And in my mind, I felt like I had grown so much that I had assumed that everyone around me had done the same.
True.
But when I came back, I saw that there was the same, and some were slightly more off than they used to be. So adjusting to that, at least at home, let me just stay at home alone, was hard. And it really broke me down as the months went by, as the reality kept sinking in. You would speak about my relationship dating, and that wasn't beautiful. That wasn't a great thing because I was having it was a really difficult time for me. Like that humbled me because, anyways, that was a tough situation. And worried about worried about not just sitting at home because I didn't want to just sit at home. I wanted to be doing something. I want to at least have a job. If I have a job, I'm studying, but to be active, to be busy. I used to run a lot. Like for
Exactly.
example, when I was on a mission, I
Mhm.
would have morning runs. This. When I came back, I was doing it, and then I realized that because I don't have enough responsibility throughout the day, it's just not as encouraging to exercise.
True.
Fine, I'll go and run, but then I'll run and I'm coming back to sit at home.
Mhm.
And like those things, man, is not nice. It's not nice. So that's transitioning that energy, let's say, that spirit that I had on mission. I don't know which one it was, but whatever that was to home, took a long time.
Mhm.
And I think part of the reason why it took so long was because my life was not full of responsibility yet. I didn't have things keeping me busy that gave me satisfaction, that gave me a good feeling at the end of the day and be like, wow, I actually had a good day, or I was busy. I can't believe I had so many things to juggle in one go. So I feel like now I'm in a better space and I'm in a better space now because I actually feel like I have more responsibility, which is something that I missed. And I realized that it's not the free time, it's not the hobby necessarily that we love, or it's not being able to just sit and watch Netflix, but it's the responsibilities in our lives that give us meaning. It's the pressure, it's the stress, it's the constant worry, what's going to happen after this. I think those things give us meaning, and that's what gave us meaning on mission. That's what gave us fulfillment. It even if we didn't have many baptisms, even if we didn't have that many lessons, but because we were always engaged in doing something that made us feel good. So I'm in a better space now, but that's taken me about almost 2 years to sort of get to. Last year wasn't a honeymoon, experience. It wasn't at all. And so, but yeah, and so that's people always said this. They're like, no, Lindo, when you come back, it's gonna be tough. I was like, you guys just don't know how to see life. And then I come back, and I realize that they're right. And that's because I'm coming from a different place, and I'm going back to a place that is not up to the same standard, and that's just the reality. So, yeah, trying to make my life go up there. And by the way, I'm not saying it like I want to go back to mission. I don't want to go back to mission, but what I'm saying is trying to put your life back to a place where you're constantly engaged. That's been the process. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
I have a question.
Mine doesn't
I have
even
a
cover
question.
Yeah.
As we transition onto the next one, you mentioned something very, 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 very important, and I think it's understated in the world. I think currently the world focuses more on rights than responsibilities, right? People try to separate themselves from responsibility. I've fathered a child somewhere. I don't want to be responsible for them. All right. Somebody else should do that. My grandmother maybe can take care of it, or the girl's child, right? Or the girl's family, sorry, can take care of the child. All I'll do is pay some child support, I'll just give some money at the end of the month. Some don't even do that, right? But you mentioned the power that comes with purpose, the power that comes from having someone or something to live for, and how that also is parallel to your happiness. And I thought that's really, really, really powerful. So I think sometimes we think the more time I have to sleep to myself, I'll be happier. Whereas it's actually the opposite. The more you have responsibilities, the more you have something to work towards and work for, the higher your happiness. So I thought that was really, really, really brilliant. My question then goes to something you touched on. You said you're married to a lovely lady, and you guys got married in the temple, and you received a revelation to marry her. Tell us a little bit about her, and maybe not so much as to how you guys met. Maybe you can do that too, but she served a mission as well, right? So how did you guys know you liked each other, and what made you decide, aside from the revelation you got? Because there's also a lot of one-sided revelations, right? Where you get the revelation and you tell the lovely sister, hey, I've got a revelation for us, right? And that doesn't. So how did she know you were the one as much as you knew she was the one? And just how did you guys meet?
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I think it was one-sided for a bit. Sometimes as a man, you have to sort of persuade, right? But I'll start it here, essentially. I first met her, well, I didn't really meet her, but I met her friend, her good friend, at a convention back in 2019, so just before I came. Met at a convention, a friend, and so I sort of had a thing. I had a thing with a friend. Let me say that before I get killed. I had a thing with a friend because a friend liked me. My friend was very smart, so she tricked me into talking to her, and so I got to know her friend. And so we had a good relationship, let's say, friends, particularly before I came on mission. And then obviously I said, hey, you know the situation. And so she was very understanding. And so we sort of, I tried to not really talk to her as much, tried to not talk to many females, let's say. And so that's how I sort of moved away from her that way. And then COVID happened. When COVID happened, I so happened to be serving in my wife, I guess, time, not at the time, but my wife, a branch. And I was working with one of my companions there. Now, something that I think stood out, part of answering your question, was it was COVID. It was like April, May, and we needed a lot of people. We had a lot of people that were recently baptized before COVID. She was our contact. She would literally she would go to the houses. We would have like lessons through her phone, or she would go and remind people and all these different things. And I'm like, for me, that was just interesting. It's like, wow, we have a member that actually loves missionary work, So that was a nice thing. But obviously for her, I guess it was a different situation. She'll never admit this. She doesn't want to admit it. But, she definitely had her eyes on me before I had my eyes on her. And she was also planning on serving a mission, I think 2 months later or a month later in June. But because of COVID, she couldn't leave. So she was reassigned to our mission, right, in Joburg. And even with that period of time, I mean, I was exposed to her, let's say, in that time. But I think the more I say I got to know her, the more, I mean, I just liked her, man. She, not like, but she was someone that I would say like, I could have around, like I'd say, yeah, you're someone I could talk to, you're someone I could chill with, you're someone that I could, Exactly. Good company. That's the word. And yeah, so she obviously, women don't want to admit that usually they're the ones that make the first move. They they want you as the man to make the first move, but they're the ones that prompt you. So they'll be like, so what's happening here? But it's their question. So you have to be the one to answer, and then they'll say, no, you're the one that said we were dating and everything. But yeah, she wanted that a lot, I guess, let's say. And that wasn't, I obviously we knew because of where we were, that wasn't something that we could do. And part of me, let's say, this is, I guess, giving context here, part of me felt like because she was willing to even think about us having something, let's say, and she knew where we were, for me, that was a turnoff as well, because in my mind, I pictured a woman that was constantly like, God-fearing, let's say, like in that way, wouldn't she? She won't stand no nonsense, right? And so that for me did affect my desire to sort of speak to her again, which is why when I came back, I didn't really speak to her.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew the type of person she was. Okay, I had some exposure to her. So, and I told my sister about it. So that when I was having, let's say, relationship problems with the other girl, I told my sister about the problems. And instead of my sister trying to help me fix the problems, she was like, "Hey, but you remember that girl? Why didn't you ever try something with her?" You know?
It's a style.
And immediately,
meet the
I'm
program.
serious. So this is the story. This is just the story quickly. Let me say quickly. So my sister says, reach out to her. I reached out to her. It was a Monday. On that Monday, I was supposed to break up with the other girl. I planned to that. And so I speak to her and I say, hey, I want us to talk and I want us to meet. She was here in Port Elizabeth. I was in Devon. And she immediately said, okay, so that means I'll have to come over there so that we can actually meet, because I don't want us to make anything happen over the phone and stuff. And that was the first time in 4 months that I had a girl make effort to see me.
Yo.
Um, so you can kind of imagine how that felt for me, and to feel that at least for once I didn't have to think about the solution, but she actually was. She made effort, and yo man, that touched me, because when I was in the previous relationship, I didn't feel that. And so that relationship really showed me a lot of what she was, because I didn't experience that. I wasn't working, right? But I was the one that had to make the dates happen. Uh, my father's car always broke down, and so sometimes it would break down on the freeway. It would overheat um, with the other girl. But the sacrifices were endless. And I'm not saying this in a way of like, no, but whatever. But I think we all can agree that in a relationship, it should be both ways. If you're working, you're getting paid. The understanding should be, don't worry, Lindo, because I understand you don't have a job. But it shouldn't be, oh, you should still provide, let's say. So Kamo was everything that, I guess, everything, but like basically everything that that girl was not, and that showed me just how important she was. And so when I finally met her, when we finally met for the first time, let's say after mission, um, I immediately felt that, and I felt at peace with her. And yeah, ever since then, I felt like I never doubted anything. It took me a while, because I think it was still like, oh, but this girl, she's the type of girl that would do this on mission or would want a relationship and everything. But the Lord humbled me, because He showed me that if you're gonna look at her on just that, you're gonna miss out on everything else that she is.
Mm.
And I know that I haven't made the bad decision there. So yeah, Kamo is an amazing woman. As we were talking earlier, she's very different from me. Um, but she loves me, and I know that she loves me, and she loves me with everything. There's nothing that Kamo doesn't know about me, and she's just accepted me, and yeah, she's very patient with me. She's very, very patient with me, and so I'm grateful to have someone that is like bears my problems. I'm annoying sometimes, man. I really am, and she's there, and yeah, so yeah, I'd say that's how she is. Revelation came because the Lord taught me, would say, you need a good woman in your life. And you can't be working too hard to, be with someone. They should also make the effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
That's a vibe.
I hope you're getting revelation, bro.
Hey
I hope
man,
you're getting revelation, bro.
listen, when he spoke about, she also needs to put effort, I'm like, hey, yeah, man, we need to look a bit harder. Yo, I mean, because I think the idea, there was this other video where this guy says, back in the day, women used to, what, like, in Western movies or whatever, how the woman would, like kind of there's this point where you're passing one another. And so if the woman like sees the man and actually has the liking to the man, what she would do is drop a what? Drop a handkerchief, you know? And with on purpose, but without showing that it's on purpose. The man sees the incentive, he takes the incentive, and he'll say, "Ma'am, did you drop your handkerchief?" She's like, "Oh, did I?" Yo, then you're in. That's it. There was no other ways about it. Nowadays the game is a bit too hard. There's a thing of sliding into DMs, and you have to say, "Hi, how are you?" And this person says, "I'm fine. How are you?" And then it's just like, I don't know where else I'm gonna take this conversation because there's nothing. So the world of dating is a hectic world. I can't say I'm experienced as much as many other people say they are. Whereas people say that they've been around the block. They've been around the block. But I love what you said about effort.
Yeah.
How effort it's both ways, and I don't think we should do this thing of calculating and saying the man must put more effort in a relationship or the woman must put more effort into a relationship. It must just be put in effort, do what you can, and we'll do with whatever. And that will be the same in, I guess, in finance. Let's do with whatever we can put on the table, let's do with that, whatever, whether we're gonna expand on this, whether this is gonna go to food, is gonna go to that. So my question here that I want to go to is, we've obviously got this worry, everybody has, whether you're a member or a non-member alike. And I'm sure some of the people that are watching this are going to relate, but it's this thing of, hi man, I can't get married too early. I need to explore, or I need to go to school, or I need to get a house, a job, and things like that. And you, both of you, are an example of people who didn't do that. You know, I think we mentioned once with Mau. Mau said we're a peculiar people where we're actually advised to marry earlier. So now for our people that are watching who are scared of marriage at such an early age, and this thing of exploring, and I need to find out who the person is, I need to find out who I am, all of this thing. What's your advice to that person?
Personally, I think first and foremost, everyone has their own time in life with everything. And I don't know, it was something that I had been thinking about for quite a long time this year as well as last year, that I know, and I 100%, I believe that, we should definitely strive to get married while we're young, and, we should work towards all of those things because, now when I was dating back before I got married, or if ever I had a conversation with a woman about dating, I always told her that I'm dating because I want to get married. And so I'm not going to date you if you don't feel like our relationship could become anything more than just what it is. You know? So it's like, I don't want to just date you for the sake of dating, but I want to date you because I actually think you're a potential partner. But in terms of life itself, I don't think we should rush it. I've seen so many people that I know some people that want marriage so bad, but they just can't get it. And some of them fall victim to the temptations of the body, let's say, because they're like, I wanted to do this for so long, but why am I not? So I think when people are scared about getting married, you should be scared. I guess it can be scary, it is a scary thing, but ask yourself, what does the Lord want you to do at that time?
Mhm.
What's guided me till now, Jeremy? It hasn't been my intuition. I would love to admit that it is, but what's gotten me to this point is because I've been asking God what He wants me to do. Um, I didn't intend to. I didn't think I was ever going to be here. Like, I had a plan to go and study in America, not to study here.
True.
I had no plan of getting married like now. I had no plan of it, but it's the Lord that guided me there. So actually, there's something that I don't know if I'll be able to show you. There's something that I wrote down. It was like a thought. No? Sorry, I don't know if you can see me. But it was just a thought. Sorry, can you see me?
100%. We can still see
Yeah,
you.
yeah, we can see you.
Okay. Let me just show you this thing. It was something I wrote down the other day, and I think it kind of goes along with what we are talking about right now. So let me just see if I can find it. Thoughts. Okay, there we go. So I said revelation from God won't always come. When it does, it can be to guide us a particular path or save us from a bad route from time to time. Afterwards, he will not command us in all things, for we are not creatures to be acted upon, but to act. And so this kind of made me think a bit about, I guess, well, should everyone get married? Yes, maybe. But will everyone get married? Definitely not. Um, we all have times where God wants us to be specific places at specific times. I personally feel like I'm married partly because, hey man, I really need to work on a lot of my people skills. And I never knew that I lacked there, but now I do. And you'd find, you would see so many other people can actually be so wonderful husbands or wives because they know how to treat the other person. They know how to be in a relationship. They know how to understand the next person. But they're the ones that are not married. Instead, it's the ones that don't know that skill that are actually married. So I don't know if I'm really getting to answer your question per se, but I say if you're afraid of taking the next step, just ask the Lord what He wants from you. Because if He gets to tell you what you should do, then be at peace with that. Then you'll figure it out. Like I was worried a lot. Like, man, how are we going to survive? My wife and I, because we're students. Yes, we're getting some stipend, but it's really not a lot. And so you find we still need money throughout the course of the month. And I'm thinking, no, I need to get a job. I need to work part time. I need to do Uber or whatever it is. And I only realize, as I try and do those things, they just all fall apart. Like, do you notice sometimes when you do things and you just ask yourself, why am I failing? Why am I constantly failing?
Yeah.
I've come to the conclusion that it's not necessarily because I don't know, you suck, but I think it's personally because that's not where you need to go. And God is in a way telling you this. And I sort of, sorry, I don't know if you're going to ask me this question, but I think I'm going to take it to how I got into the radio station. So I was trying for the longest time to get my wife and I were worried about funds, right? So we wanted to earn extra money somehow. And we like, you know what, let's start selling cookies. Okay, so I started making these snickerdoodles. Very nice, man. Very nice. Got
Nice.
cinnamon on them. And I made quite a few, and then obviously we're sampling them out and everything like that. And people really gave us a good response. They were like, okay, this is gonna happen, right? I bake like 60 of those cookies. And then following day, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go and sell them, right? At school. I already got a table to set up where I'm gonna put the cookies. I got I had like a white paper that I was going to stick on it so people can be like, see it. So I had a plan. It was clean, you know?
Yeah.
The following day comes, it's raining. There's protest at school. And then we're shut down, so no one can go to school. Like I literally wake up in the morning and all of those, like serious. And I was so defeated because I was like, what in the world just happened, right? And a few hours later, I get a call from the radio manager, and he's like, "Hey, dude, do you still want to be part of the show? I got a gig for you." And he's like, "I can slot you in at this time." And seriously, I actually went in the following day, and so I've been there since then. So I don't know if that answers your question though.
My man. I mean, looking at the question, I think the main thing is that we shouldn't focus on the material things. We shouldn't focus on I'm lacking in this, or I need this, and things like that. It's just work on the fact that it's something that you want. You want to get married, then work towards it. And it's like that same thing of on mission, don't work on growing or being this amazing guy. It's There's a focus. You focus on God, you get that thing. If you want a big house, if you want to have good finances, all these things, have a focus. That is not that all of that stuff is gonna be for your family. So if you work towards that, definitely you're gonna get it. I mean, I don't think I would work. It goes back to the other conversation about responsibilities, Mao. The more responsibilities you have or that you want, you work towards being able to actually make sure it works. So I like the answer.
I want to add, I'm thinking of what President Nelson said a couple of years ago. He coined the question, "How do you hear him?" Right, and it caught wave around the world. But I think that's such an important question, an important thing, because I think, I mean, I found myself in the same shoes as Lindo, and with me, I'm the type of guy who I don't like to be unsure about something, so I'll ask everyone. I'll ask Bishop, "What do you think?" Dad, what do you think? I'll go to my best friend. "What do you think?" And you get counsel from everyone, and you realize that everybody gives contradictory answers.
Mm-hmm.
I literally had two church leaders that I respect. One was like, "Go for it, get married, do it." Other one was like, "Don't you dare, right? Finish your studies." Both men I respect and love, right?
Yeah.
And you reach a point where you're like, I have to know, what does God want me to do, right? You have to reach a point where you say, "Okay, cool. This is what I want, right? This is the counsel I'm receiving from everybody else. Heavenly Father, what do you want me to do, right?" And most often you'll succeed when you follow what God wants you to do. In my case, I had to learn the hard way. So for me, I knew as soon as I got back, I wanted to get married. Out of fear, I didn't. Well, again, I mean, obviously there was also dating. There's also dating in between, so that's a big factor. But again, there was a lot of fear. Where's the money gonna come from? I don't have a secure. And you don't just want a job. You want a career. You want stability. And so you're thinking, I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't have this. And then my father, love my father to bits. Very adamant. You don't dare do that right now. Focus on your studies, and you finish that, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I did exactly that. I focused on my studies. I was in school. I lived on campus, so I didn't even have to worry about traveling. I had food from what do you call this place? I don't know. Just the cafeteria where they cook food and everything. Great life, nice life problems. I don't have to cook. I don't have to travel. All I have to do is be in my books and study. And I failed, right? I failed, and I think, for me, the reason was, and so I sat there thinking, you know what, if I can fail doing what I don't want to do, right, fearing, I might as well fail doing exactly what I want to do, and I think that was the revelation for me. I followed what Heavenly Father wanted me to do, and luckily I've been passing since. but I think it's the idea of, what does God want you to do? And if God wants you to get married in 5 years, do that, right? Don't force matters. But if he wants you to do that, if he wants to get married now, do that as well, right? How do you hear him? What do you want me to do? So I love that. I love those sentiments as well. Of the timing is not really like, you don't do comparative living. You try to follow God's plan for you. Whatever that plan looks like, and it's very unique. So anyways, that's really, really, really powerful.
I just want to say I just want to say with that, I feel like we stress ourselves so much. I was just reading something now that says people that are depressed are people that live in the past, people that are anxious are the people that live in the future. and people that live in the present are the ones that are at peace. And so I feel like a lot of people are somewhat in between the past and the future. And I think that I mean, there's a good reason for that as well. But I don't know. I feel like I find it better to just say, if this is what I can do right now, let me just do that and let me do my best. And I think a lot of people don't have that. They don't sit down and start appreciating what they currently have. Because you find good sometimes maybe it's not that God is not opening doors for you, but why should he open them if you can't even see the ones that he already has opened for you? Like why should he?
Yeah.
So,
Sure. Lindo, I have another question for you. I don't know if it's going to be the last one because Jeremy might have a last one.
I do.
But okay. So this is not the last one then. But the question I have is what does the plan look like for you going forward? So right now you're doing radio, and we're happy with that. By the way, we'll put down the link in our video for people to catch that out in
Shout out.
Oh yes. But what's the plan going forward for you and Kamo? Where do you guys see yourselves just maybe in the next couple of years?
sheesh, that's a tough one. I think will depend on what God sees, right?
Easy answer.
Good one.
But yeah, no, I think for us right now, well, we're hoping to finish studying in the next 3 years at least. We want to start a family as soon as we can. We'll see what happens. But that's what I'm mostly looking forward to. But I've realized from a lot of people that you need to be financially stable as well, and so that's something that I'm working towards. That I can be able to do that and have a family. So we're looking to have a family in the next few years. She's going to finish her study too and probably relocate. I don't say staying here. Would like to stay in Cape Town. I keep saying this, but I would like to go and try live in Cape Town for once. See how that is. Then afterwards, I leave the country. Just Durban, South Africa, Joburg, and then out. But yeah, that's currently what we have planned. Yeah, man, hoping for 12 kids. That's our goal. We want to see if we can have 12 tribes of Madlala. And then for me, I just want to be an engineer. The real,
12 tribes of what?
thing.
I'm so sorry.
12 tribes of Madlala.
12 tribes of Madlala. Oh, goodness. Please continue.
Yeah. I'm gonna have my own scriptures. I'm telling you. But yeah, so now I'm planning on being an engineer. I want to produce electricity, so that's why I'm studying what I'm studying. I want to produce electricity. That's been something, as when I said I was trying to plan my career path. That's the thing that came to my mind. I didn't plan it. I didn't ask for it. It literally just fixed energy. And at that time, load shedding was still fine. So I think it's been an interesting thing that over the years, that's something that God wants me to be in. So yeah, with the radio thing, no man, I'm just doing it because to be honest, I've heard people before, like if I give talks at church or whatever, and they'd be like, yo man, you got a nice radio voice. Why don't you try that out? And I'm like, nah. And so I had this, what you call this? We had a seminar, let's say, with the co-founder for Bloom, Eric. And so I was, we were leading a conference there. So he joined us on Zoom and he spoke about us being persistently proactive. And then immediately the thought came like, go to your radio station and see if you can sign up there. And so I didn't think about this radio station. I actually thought about the one for Port Elizabeth. Then my wife was like, no, just go to the one at school. And so, yeah, I don't know. Maybe something will come out of this. Maybe I'll be able to earn side money in the future. But for now, I'm just having fun. It's a very stressful thing. I'm not going to lie. I have to be scared. Like I'm so nervous. Almost every day I'm nervous because I have to worry about the actual 1 hour, the interviews, the questions, the topic, having people join in and give us feedback and stuff. So, but yeah, that's our plan. For now, I don't think there's really anything else there. It's just we want to have kids, have a family, and yeah, start living. My wife doesn't want to study anymore. She doesn't want to do anything. She wants to sit at home. So that's what we're looking
Yes,
towards
yeah.
now.
That
Yeah.
means you must make double the money you're gonna make right now. You must make your money and her lawyer's money as well. So you better work hard.
Hey, 12, man. 12 is not an easy number.
12,
It costs a lot.
Go Lyndon President Nelson.
He's competing. The next prophet. I hope that wasn't too blasphemous, but oh goodness, yo, that was funny. Yo, man, that's crazy. I think thinking forward, and I guess that can be very like anxious. I love what you just that quote that you said. I heard that as well or read it somewhere, and I just think about it every now and then. I'm like, well, I don't want to be depressed because I don't want to live in the past. I don't want to be anxious and live in the future. But you also have to prepare for the future and need to learn from the past, and then you end up in the present. But this is a question. The last question that I want to ask is it might be deep, but not as deep, but deep at the same time. It's something I've been thinking about, and something that's been sitting on my mind and my heart for the last couple of days, especially after an institute lesson. And yeah, so the question is, what does it mean to you to be a member of the church? Yeah.
What does it mean to me to be a member of the church?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know where you are going with it because it sounds like there's a whole lot more context in there, but I think if I'm to answer that question from what you said, I think being a member of the church for me means being a devoted disciple of Christ. For me, I see it as a person, people who are always asking themselves, Lord, is it I? And who are always in a frame set of, I wish to be better. There's an example that I think you may know about Jeremy. I said this on mission. When I spoke about how the Lord needs us to be his instrument and how as an instrument, we can't be effective if our strings aren't tightened, right? If we're not cleaned properly and all these different things. So for me, I think being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ is basically embodying that principle of we always need to be at our best. We always need to strive for the best. And it doesn't mean that we need to compare to the next person or whatever, but individually between us and the Lord, asking ourselves, am I doing my best? Am I trying my utmost best to have faith in Jesus Christ? Am I trying my utmost best to be an example, to be that salt that he spoke about? Because I think that's essentially it. Most people won't know about the church because of the church. They'll know about it because of us. And how we are, what we say, how we act, what we think. I think for me that's the most important thing. Because man, you can tell the type of people are just by looking at them. And so I think that's what it means for me. I think it means, and President Nelson has been emphasizing, for me, President Nelson has been showing me that it means you never give up and you never stop going. Like you never stop going. And he doesn't stop. He's quite matured for his age, let's say. He's very mature now. And he's still going, dude. He's still going. So I think that's what it means. I think it means a people that just don't stop, a people that keep moving forward, a people that are always learning from their mistakes, a people that are always trying to be better. for themselves, but mostly for the next person.
Mhm.
Because if I can be a better neighbor to you, then that means you'll be less angry with me. And that means I'll be happy with you, which then means life is great for both of us.
The
So
ripple effect.
yeah,
I love that.
Sure.
Oh
I don't know
my
if that
goodness.
answers you.
See, I've been sitting with that, just thinking about, I've been thinking about new members, and some old members, about how some people people, so we someone said it to me as people are active, physically, but they're not active at heart, you know? So people come and sit in the pews at church and listen to the talks and, go to Sunday school and things and stuff like that. But they're not really, there. And then they're just coming as a vessel, an empty vessel. And it doesn't get filled, it doesn't get emptied, it just comes in and goes back out and continues the week, however the week was, comes to church on Sunday. And so I've been thinking about now with me, and I'm putting that, like, what does that mean to me? What am I doing in order to not be an empty vessel just coming in and out of church, you know? So it's one of those. It's being proactive, persistently proactive. It's really engaging with the Lord, as much as you can every day, just taking a bit of time, whether that's in your prayers and your scripture study and any family time and so on and so forth, but it's remembering him, recognizing that he's there, he's available, he's around.
Sure. Power stuff. One last thing, Linda, before we close our discussion, is wifey around? Is she sleeping? Because we wanted to say hi to our friends, just into the show face, and then if that's if
She's around, but I don't know if she's ready. I don't know if she's camera ready yet. Because I had to put on makeup and stuff. I don't know if she's camera ready.
Okay, no, it's fine. It's good because it means we're gonna get her on her own. Tell her being not camera ready now means we'll get her on her own. Being an RM as well. So one of these days. No, but we really appreciate you, man. We appreciate you taking your time to be with us and for just sharing some wonderful things with us. And again, if our viewers have questions and would like to follow Lindo, we'll put down his socials in our bio. So do follow him, do subscribe, do like, do comment. Do also comment on what stood out to you in our discussion today. There's lots of good stuff dropped out here. Jeremy, any thoughts before we close it out?
Just thank you so much once again, Linda, for coming. I am very grateful for you. I'm so glad that you have still been around in my life before mission, on mission, and after mission. It's been absolutely fantastic. To all the people that are watching, I honestly hope that you can gain something from this. There's been many little gems that have been dropped here. We had some pre-gems that were dropped before the conversation that were not for all the listeners, but it's necessary. If you get your hands on Lindo, speak to him, ask him whatever it is that you want. He's very open to those. And this is just a shout out again for him as a new host of a radio station on his campus. It's called Madiba's Radio. So I believe you air every Thursday. You're on every Thursday, or is it like
Monday? No, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7. So 4 days in the week.
Nasog. The link for it will be dropped, so you can be able to find out and see him more or hear from him more every day, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7, and y'all will be good. Thank you so much, my friend, and thank you to everyone for watching and joining us. We love you all, and we shall see you.
That's a wrap.
Bye.